Good afternoon. I'd like to call together the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Zoning Adjustment for Wednesday, May 5th. We'll begin with a roll call vote.
Okay. Drew Goodner.
Here.
Frost Rollins.
Here.
Emmy Sorrells.
Here.
Kim White.
Here.
Clint Wilson.
Here.
John Huff.
Here.
Letitia Khalif.
Here.
And we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from our April 7th meeting.
Move to approve April 7th minutes.
Second.
Drew Goodner.
Yes.
Frost Rollins.
Yes.
Emmy Sorrells.
Yes.
Kim White.
Yes.
Clint Wilson.
Yes.
Got some opening remarks to make. Any persons aggrieved by any decision of the board may within 15 days after such decision appeal to the circuit court having jurisdiction according to section 908.02 of the zoning ordinance of the city of Auburn, Alabama. Old business, we will begin with one case.
You may remember from the last meeting that there were two cases that were tabled.
Yeah, we tabled one of them's back.
Correct.
Okay.
The other one was pulled by the applicant.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. So this is a request for a variance of 15 feet to the minimum rear setback of 40 feet to allow a minimum rear setback of 25 feet. The subject property is located in the Tanglewood subdivision at the corner of Briarwood Avenue and Mill Branch Drive in NC 14, surrounded by NC 14. And the original structure you can see here is shown as the existing structure, was built prior to setback requirements and is legal nonconformity. And then in 2010, they were granted a variance of 5.5 feet to the rear setback for the addition. And they are wanting to build a roof over the existing patio, which will further encroach the setback about 5.5 more feet. Here are some design images in the plan for their build to cover the back porch. And the applicant submitted this information in response to concerns that they might develop further if they were granted this setback, to show that their septic tank and lines are in the way and they would not be able to do that. And the photos on the left here are the view from the neighborhood behind their house, and what they can see from there into their backyard. And then on the right shows the distance from the house to the fence. And then finally, here's the view from their house into the neighbor's yard. And I have not received any communication regarding this request, and myself or the applicant is here to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Did we not get a communication from one of the neighbors via email? Is that a different?
That was not this.
Payne Street. Yeah.
Payne Street, gotcha.
Is the applicant here and would like to speak?
It's funny doing this in person. We did it on Zoom last time, but we're just trying to do our back patio, and I did contact my rear neighbor and talk to him, because he would be the only one that would kind of see some of it, and he said it was totally fine with him. You know, it wouldn't bother him, because really his view is, you know, our roof, and it wouldn't really change his view of anything. And like Maddie said, she's been a great help, because we have been trying to get all this stuff together. But from their vantage point, we're kind of on a hill, so our 8-foot fence kind of looks like a 12-foot fence from their vantage point, so it kind of covers our backyard. And he had no problem with it, and I kind of talked him through it, what we were going to do, and he said whatever he said whatever I wanted to do was fine with him. But we're just trying to we didn't know the setbacks were going to be an issue until we talked to our builder and all that. So we're just trying to maximize our outdoor space, because my kids like being outdoors, and we're just trying to have a covered place that we can be outside. Because, you know, in Alabama summers, they're very hard, and there's just so much those umbrellas will give you shade. So I think that's about it. Do y'all have any questions or concerns?
So as a reminder, this is to take that concrete patio in the picture and just add a roof to it?
Yes. It'll be an open patio, and some of the pictures that we had were just some concepts we looked at. It will be a shingled roof, and, we're gonna tie it into our house just like we did the addition, because, we don't want it to make it look like it was something added on. We want to make it look like it's always been there. And it'll be a shingle roof, A-frame. The roof will be finished on the inside, some ceiling fans, but it'll be totally open air.
Tyler, this was the case that
Yes.
we had last month where we asked you to supply some more documents, I guess, or
Right,
photos.
there were no pictures of the
Gotcha.
backyard, so I
Understood.
totally understood it. We put some in, but I don't know what happened to them, but there
Right.
was no pictures of the backyard or anything of the patio, so,
Gotcha, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Advance the slides one more. Thank you. I just wanted to study that one a little bit.
Anybody have any more questions for Tyler?
And our yard is, if you look at it, our yard is very long than it is wider. And so we're not wanting to eat up any more space, so I wouldn't want to do anything else anyway. But we added on to the other side of the house because of the septic system and the field lines, and we've had to redo them since we've lived there. And if you've ever redone field lines, it's a nightmare. We're going to protect those at all costs, so I'm never going to try to do anything to them. But
Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
You can have a seat now. We'll open the public hearing and see if anyone has anything to say in favor of or against this variance. Close the public hearing and open up to a board discussion and/or a motion.
So I think we were a little unclear on exactly what he wanted to do last time. I think he's done a good job on providing us exactly what he wants to do and showing us examples.
Yeah, I think that the main discussion last time was if there would be any room, which this has all been, any room to do anything else, or if it was ever gonna become like actual living space, that would be more of an issue. I have no problem with this. I think it's gonna just add to the character and the value of the home, so I think this is a great addition. Thank you for providing the additional information too.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to commend you for helping us, giving us all the information to help make a
That's
good
all my
decision.
wife's doing. She did a great job.
Well, I hope she gets some flowers maybe on the way home.
I'll make a motion to approve PL 2021000173.
I'll second.
Drew Goodner,
Yes.
Frost Rollins, Amy Sorrells,
Yes.
Kim White,
Yes.
Clint Wilson.
Yes.
All right, moving on to new business, PL 2021-00215. Jay?
All right, good evening. The next application is a rear setback request. Located at 747 South College Street in the NC 20 zoning district. It's in the Talons at Auburn subdivision. And the specific request is a request for a variance of 4 feet 8 inches to the minimum required 45-foot rear yard setback in this district to allow a rear setback of 40 feet 4 inches. This is the site plan. The property in question is on the corner of Talon Court and South College. It's as a result of the property to its rear on Talon that has requested to move their property line between their two properties approximately 5 feet in the direction of the subject property. That's to allow for the construction of a carport on that property, which is accessory structure has to have a minimum of 5 feet separation from it and the property line, which it did not have under the current subdivision as it currently is. So, in order to get that subdivision boundary adjusted, that would impact the setbacks on their neighbors, the subject property's yard, and therefore that's what's bringing them to you today for that setback request. This is a picture of the in between those two structures. You have the structure on the right hand side of the screen is the subject property, and the structure on the left-hand side is the house that would like to build its carport. And so you can see there the proximity of the two,
The variance is for the property on the right.
but the variance is for the property that is on the right. That's correct.
The property on the left is moving the property line,
They are requesting to.
but the property on the right wants the variance.
Correct.
Okay.
It's, as it currently stands, the property lines are set as they are, and they cannot move that property line if it makes either one of those two properties non-conforming. And in order to do that, they would make the subject property non-conforming because they moved that property line within the setback of that house. So therefore, they can't do that subdivision unless a variance is allowed for the rear setback of the subject property.
Subdivision. You mean carport?
It is a
I mean, because
carport on that
it's already
property.
gone through planning, it's already done all that, all the lines already drawn, all that's already done.
Any boundary line adjustment is considered a subdivision. And
Okay.
so it is already been approved. It was approved in June of 2018, and then in March of last year, they approached the city with an administrative plat, which proposed this lot line boundary movement.
So it's gonna be administrative approval, but they do not have to go back for planning.
Not for an administrative plat, which is considered anything 4 lots or less. But however, because the proposed subdivision would create a non-conforming lot, they would have to get a variance before that subdivision could be approved. All right. So correspondence, we've not received anything from any neighbors or anybody else. And the applicant's representative is here.
Thank you, Jay.
So Jay, you said the carport could be reduced in size and we wouldn't need to do anything?
If they reduced it to the point where it was at least 5 feet away from the existing boundary line, there would be no variance required for the subject property, because the boundary line wouldn't have to be moved.
It's already been built?
This picture that you're looking at here is a couple of weeks ago. They can't build the extension carport until that subdivision were to be allowed to be approved.
Any more questions for staff? The applicant here?
Brett Basquin, Foresight Group, representing the developer, owner, and the homeowner. So I think Jay did a pretty good job explaining. This is a variance on Lot 1 for the benefit of Lot 2. All this is being done for the benefit of Lot 2, who wants a carport. Now, on the carport, for it to be considered an accessory structure, it has to be 10 foot off of the principal structure. So it has to be 10 foot off and then 5 foot off the property line. So instead of going for a variance for the accessory structure to be closer to the house of 5 feet, they worked with the property owner next door and willing to shift the property line, which would then require a variance of about 4.5 feet for the rear corner of their garage. If this carport was connected to the house and had heated and cooled space, it'd be part of the principal structure. Therefore, it would then be required to be 25 feet, the side setback, off of that side. So back when this came up was back when Forrest was here, and we talked through the different options, and going the accessory structure route was kind of the least intrusive when we had those discussions back in October of last year.
So the carport, I'm sorry to interrupt, the carport is not connected? What is the, or the
Well,
two red lines?
I mean, there'll be a
Breezeway.
like a breezeway
A breezeway
covering,
walk-through, okay.
but that's it. The whole
whole
structure
structure
will
is
be
separate, okay.
separated, yep. There'll just be a little covered breezeway connecting the house and that. And so you can see, I guess, do you have my,
Other one?
so this is not a picture, this is a picture of what this is going to, similar to what it's going to look like. Is an example. It's kind of what got the inspiration for the porte-cochere that they want to do. At this level, we call it a porte-cochere, not a carport, which is more considered a fancy carport, I guess, in my terms. But they like to use porte-cochere for this. And so, you know, when we talk about the hardships here, on this particular project, because it was along South College, originally when we started going through this project 5 or 6 years ago, one of the big concerns from that we got from Mayor Ham at the time was how close these houses would potentially be from South College, and changing that viewpoint of these homes being too close to South College and trying to push them away. This particular lot is a corner lot, so we have two frontages. In meeting with what we agreed upon doing, we considered South College the front, which was the 40-foot setback, but it then required a 40-foot rear setback. The 45-foot rear setback is against this lot too. If you kind of flip that, if we would have orientated the house towards the internal street, then we would have been able to shift the house a lot closer to College, and we wouldn't have this setback issue. So we were trying to managing that at the time. And so the two fronts is really what's creating this hardship. Now, when you look at the rest of these lots, if you go back to that variance, well, Jay had the same picture, so you've got to see what it looks like today out there. But if you go back to that, pull up that site plan, all the other houses on the cul-de-sac will be 35 feet apart. There's a 35-foot minimum setback or separation between homes on a side setback. It's 20 foot and 15, which is a 35-foot minimum setback between the two on a shared property line. In this particular case, as it currently is, without the porte-cochere, these two structures are going to be 77 feet apart. So it's almost, there's a separate gap. Most people, when they come through there, ask the builder if there's another lot in between there that a homes can go in. That's how wide it is compared to what you see with the other house spacing there. Be happy to answer any questions. This was kind of an ad by the homeowner during the process, and so we're trying to achieve. I mean, this does require us to, one, we have to relocate a sewer line. We also have to replat and shift this property line. But those are the two things that we would have to do other than transfer the ownership between the two to comply with or in order to construct what we're proposing here. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Brett?
So, the only question I really have is, everything's the same as what y'all got approved for, but now new construction, y'all are coming back and asking for something different, correct?
Well, the only thing that we got for was just platting the lots.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which sets all the setbacks and sets all the, what you're supposed to do and not do.
Well, somewhat, yes. These are custom homes, and so each house is being designed to meet within the parameters of the lot sizes that we have in here, which the zoning sets the minimum lot size. So yeah, at that point, it's kind of a blank canvas until property lines get set and ownership gets established, so yeah.
Okay.
Brett, they have a 2-car garage right now.
Yeah. 2-car garages, you come around the back a little bit more.
Thank you.
Huh.
Open the public hearing, see if anyone has anything to say for or against this variance.
Good evening. Hey, Scott Barnes, builder, developer. To your point, John, consideration was made when we met with Bill, I guess about 3 or 4 years ago, about we could have turned that corner house to Talon and slid the side of the house all the way to College. So there was a lot of consideration about how the house actually looked from College and what put it so close to College. And so this is more of, I mean, the homeowner in Lot 2 is more, he saw the void and it said, well, it looks like it makes sense that something could go there and it wouldn't disrupt or do anything to the look or feel of the home. And actually adds a lot to the streetscape when you do turn on Talon. I know it's not a long street, but so I guess it's about to your point. Consideration on, I guess, me, the developer, and the builder was made to make the view corridor coming along College. We went such a lot, so we went through so much about that consideration to turn the house, in essence, slid the house that way and created this void where I could have just turned the house to College and slammed the side of a house right on College. So there was some of that consideration. I just want to bring that up.
Thank you.
We'll close the public hearing and open it up to board discussion and or a motion.
The setbacks we usually see are how many feet? Anywhere from 20 to
35?
35. And this is a new
Roughly.
development. We're looking at 45-foot setbacks. I mean, I do see the concern where you're on South College Street. You're coming into Auburn looking at these houses, but it looks like this one's moving, I mean, it's not moving it towards South College Street. I'm just trying to think through this.
Well, and if Lot 1 is willing to give up 5 feet of his yard to kind of fill this void in a little bit, I mean, I don't really see I mean, if he's willing to do that, then I would say I'm inclined to be okay with the variance.
I don't understand what the hardship is.
Or the unique circumstances, you know, in the last one we had, you know, a legal nonconformity, making things tough. This is brand new construction, and they knew from jump what the setbacks were.
So it's a, and y'all may have said it, but I forget. So the porte-cochere, I see where it sits, but it also looks like it sits a little bit further than what they're saying for the driveway. So what, if they built it right now, what would it be? How close to the side would it be?
If they were to build it right now, it would be on top of the property line.
It'll be on top of the property line. Okay. Let's see.
That's,
He's asking for 4'8" and it's 5 feet.
The old property line's not shown, that red line is the proposed.
Okay, it's not showing it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The red line is the shifted property line.
So how much room is between the, is that a drive, I'm guessing, that's coming in between the porte-cochere and that other? I mean, it looks like it's a good 10 feet.
Yeah, the porte-cochere shown right there is 10 foot off of the house.
Right, but I'm talking about on the opposite side of the driveway, close to the new proposed line. Thank you.
The portico is 5 feet off the property line, right? The new the proposed.
Property line,
Proposed
yeah.
property line.
Right. They don't show the current line on here, but they set us on top of it.
I guess, John, what you're saying is it's a pretty massive portico.
What I'm saying is it's 12 to 15 feet, and if they reduce that by 5, then
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's 5 to 8 feet.
You're showing
So
the
it's
drive,
redesigned.
yeah, the driveway and how it's extending
Right.
past that area a good bit. I can't see those figures, Jay. From the house, how far is the house from the side property line right now, current one?
Hey, Logan, can you blow up the area? There's dimensions all around the.
Yeah, I just can't, okay.
No, I know, you can't see them from right there.
Okay, I can see it now.
That are on there.
So from the house to the current property line is what, 33 feet?
Are you asking about the lot 2 or lot 1?
Lot 2. I feel like this is more variance for lot 2 than it is lot 1. I know the technicality.
It looks like it's about 32 feet.
Okay, and so it's got to be 10 feet off the house, 5 feet, so they could build a 18-foot wide portico. Does that sound right?
They could build a,
Yes.
But
they
there
could build
won't.
a 16-foot wide portico, because it's if they reduce the 21-foot wide portico,
Yeah, I can't tell if that's 23 or 10, or, but they can build a still 16 or 18-foot wide.
Enough for a car to drive through.
Yeah. Having a hard time with it. I live downtown and would love a 2-car garage and a portico, but I don't have either.
They
don't
wouldn't
even
need a
have a
variance for
carport.
that, right?
No, they wouldn't need a variance. No, they could still build a decent sized one without a variance. I make a motion to deny PL 2021-00215.
Second.
Drew Goodner,
Yes.
Frost Rollins, Emmy Sorrells,
No.
Kim White,
Yes.
Clint Wilson.
No.
That's a 3-2, so
That's not denied.
But does that mean it's approved?
4.
What does it mean?
Does someone need to move to approve it?
yeah.
I think we should probably do all of our motions in the affirmative and go from there.
I'll move to approve PL 2021-00215, variance 4 feet 8 inches, the minimum required 45-foot rear yard setback.
A second.
Drew Goodner,
No?
Frost Rollins, Emmy Sorrells,
Yes.
Kim White,
No.
Clint Wilson.
Said yes.
Yes, object.
That's 2-3 which I suppose does not pass.
Correct.
Thank you. All right, moving on to PL 2021-00226. Stephanie?
Yes, this is a variance request at 1934 Fairway Drive. It's located in the Moores Mill Golf Club subdivision in the Limited Development District zoning district with the planned overlay for the subdivision. It is surrounded by similar zoning and similar land use. The applicant is requesting a variance of 3 feet 1 inch to the minimum required 10-foot setback between a primary structure or principal structure and an accessory structure or use, to allow a private swimming pool to be 6 feet 11 inches from the principal structure. The regulation is that any accessory structure has to be at least 10 feet from the principal structure, and the private swimming pool is considered an accessory use, thereby having to abide by the same setbacks. It's very small on this slide, so I apologize for that, but the red arrows show the minimum space that would be in between the proposed pool and the principal structure. I know that in the instance of pools specifically, building codes looks at this 10-foot setback a little bit closer than for a regular accessory structure due to safety. The applicant is Brian Young, and I believe he is here this evening to help answer any questions. We did receive contact from several people asking for information. The neighbor directly to the south called and just wondered how it would affect them. I told them that if it were to be granted, the pool would actually be shielded from their property by the garage that's existing, so they were fine with it.
What was that? Between the garage and the pool, there's a white solid, is that an overhang?
I believe,
No, back,
On the left side.
right there.
In just a minute, Brian.
Just a second.
okay. Yes, it's supposed to be a covering. It's actually an existing patio, which you can kind of see in the aerial here, has an existing fire pit, and that's what they're looking to put the pool in that area.
Is the purpose of this ordinance simply for safety?
Any accessory structure or use is supposed to be 10 feet from the principal structure. I stated that inspections particularly looks at this for pools for safety reasons, as far as if the eave of the roof is too close to the edge of the pool.
Gotcha. Thank you.
For jumping.
I like that your interpretation is an inconvenience, it says. I liked that in your report.
Any other questions for Stephanie? The applicant here?
I'm the homeowner, Brian Young. The main reason I guess we are here is we had the courtyard, which was existing. There's a, if y'all could bring up the site plan, if you don't mind. There's a wall that basically wraps around the corner of the house, and inside that courtyard is where we wanted to do the pool. If we were to have the pool narrower, 10 foot from the house, then the pool would be getting reduced to about 8 foot wide. And so basically we just wanted to be able to have a pool that was still pretty narrow, but it's 13 foot wide the way it's drawn now. That existing courtyard, it actually was a fountain in there that has been removed at this time, and we're just trying to create an outdoor living space in the center next to the home. I've talked to both neighbors, the one to the south via email today. He has no issues, and also Jimmy Cleveland with Morse Mill Club has no issues. And if anything, from an invasive standpoint for other neighbors, this is actually, you know, putting it closer to me, and I think all the surrounding property owners are okay with it.
Could you shift it?
Say that one more time.
Could you shift it further from the house?
Which, the
Further
way-
from the garage.
Yeah.
Well, the way the house is on the other wing, it would run into that other wing.
So what is that open space? Is that an overhang, or is that a wall, or what is that between the garage and, well, I guess it looks like patio furniture?
It's a covered walkway.
It's a covered walkway.
Mhm.
So is a covered walkway going to be the same elevation as the pool deck?
The surface elevation, yes.
Mhm.
No, it'll be recessed maybe 6 inches lower. So
So-
you'll step down into the courtyard.
It'll step down. So I know we're not, codes in here, but if it was up that 6 inches, and if that walkway was, it looks 3 feet, then if they counted that, then you're within your 10-foot area.
The walkway, so the only thing about that, yes, to the side of the house, yes, it
Yes.
is.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
If you elevated all that up, then I don't know that covered or uncovered matters. Have you asked them that?
The upstairs story is above that as well. So the garage is 2-story.
I'm talking about where it looks like it looks like kind of like steps, and then you kind of
Yeah,
walk
that is
up.
correct. If you were to take the walkway out, there's no heated or cooled space within that.
Well, how wide's that walkway?
That's
Can
probably
you zoom in?
4 to 5 feet.
Okay, but
Probably
that's not
5 feet.
counted in your 10-feet calculation according
No,
to
sir,
this.
it's not.
Yeah, so is he 7 feet from the walkway or 7 feet from the garage?
It's 7 feet from the walkway.
So you're 7
From a
feet.
structure standpoint, the columns that are on that walkway are supporting the garage structure on the outside of that path.
So if I'm walking under that walkway, am I looking up and there's living space above me?
No.
No.
There's not, well, the upstairs, but it's not heated and cooled right there.
Okay.
I don't know how they look at it, but to me, if that walkway's 3 or 4 feet, and if you pulled everything up, your patio
Well,
up to that same level, then in theory, then you should have your 10 feet.
on the other side of the pool, that's where the master bathroom is, that one corner, and that one corner where you have the same issue.
So did you look at like taking the pool where it's like this and flipping it this way, putting like where your outdoor kitchen is? So I'm assuming that you'd have the same issue if you made your pool horizontal as opposed to vertical.
It gets tight, yes, it does.
So for the record, that measurement is from that top corner of the pool to that corner of the actual structure, not that white space in between. That's just where the lines show up.
Okay.
But the point of that house to the point of the pool is the distance that I measured.
Okay.
So what is it on the opposite side?
I
Correct.
believe it's at least the 10 feet.
So that's the 10 feet. Then if he's able to incorporate his sidewalk, he should be okay. If they can incorporate that, I don't know why they couldn't. As long as it's the same elevation, I get it if it's a 6-inch differential.
The pool's centered up, so the distance on that other corner is the exact same.
So you're saying they're both 7 feet?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And to her point, you couldn't rotate the pool.
We, the wall that surrounds the courtyard is about a 1-foot concrete wall that is actually poured solid. We have cut that piece out, and our goal, when you get to if you get to behind where we have the kitchen drawn, basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is we had it where we had an infinity edge looking out over the driving range. If you go the other way, there's a putting green that's right there. There's a lot of activity there, so to be a little bit more private and less invasive, it would be ideal to leave it as planned.
Stephanie, when you say safety, I guess, I don't know a ton about pools, but Florida comes to mind where pools are seemingly 0 to 2 feet off a lot of houses. And there's probably a lot more pools down there. Is our 10-foot rule, is this common? Is this kind of an oddity of our code? Because you would think they would deal with it a lot more down there and have more experience. Or is it us interpreting as an accessory structure? Is that different from most?
I'm not sure exactly what other cities we may have benchmarked in developing that. I know that we just look at it as an accessory structure, but from what I've been told, that it is almost specifically for pools to make sure people aren't jumping from the roofs into their pool.
I think like with lanais is kind of what you're referring to, the screened-in pools. Those are a lot of times connected to the house. So at that point, it's a part of the house and
Yeah.
not an accessory structure.
Well, and I'm not thinking of that. I'm thinking of legitimate pools that I've been in and seen often, and they're from me to this gavel from the house.
And generally have decks above them too, where you could
Right.
jump from.
Any more questions for Brian?
And I do have the pool builders here if there's any questions for him.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody want to speak to the pool builder or open the public hearing? We'll open the public hearing for anyone who has anything to say for or against this variance.
Brett Bask, 11655 Heron Point. In discussions on this before, the question came up of whether this was an oddity. There's been a lot of debate within internal staff at Auburn in my conversations on whether pools are considered accessory structures or not. There's a lot of debate on whether they take that out, not have it as an accessory structure, because it's technically not a structure. You know what I mean?
That's kind of my thought, yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that to light in conversations I've had with Katie and with John Hoare, who's not here, and knows there's a lot of debate back and forth. I know John was here. I was trying to track him down to kind of stay, but I've had that specific conversation with him just in regards to the similar case. So just wanted to bring that up to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, Brett. All right, well,
Go ahead.
you want to close the public hearing? You have something, Brian?
No, close.
Close the public hearing and open it up to the board for a motion or a discussion and or a motion.
Zoom that in one more time, please, just so I can see something. So if the pool starts right at the edge of the house, and I mean, if they pull it back another 6-8 inches, it's not off the house. So the one on the right-hand side by the kitchen shouldn't come into play. The one on the left side could come into play depending on the elevation of the patio and if they'll include that walkway behind it. So they may be okay if they pull their deck up that 6 inches.
But, I mean, John, out of all the years we've done this, this is probably the least intrusive request we've ever had. I mean, how is this going to affect anybody in the city or any of his neighbors?
Well, you can make that argument about anything.
Not really.
We're supposed to
Not
be
really.
here for
Every other one
is-
has something
is
else.
the land dictates an issue. That's why we're here.
You got to have practical, we're violating the law every variance.
I agree. I get it.
That's why it's a
You got to
variance.
look at it with a practical eye.
I feel like with I don't know saw several. I mean, it's like with the pool. I would argue it's not an accessory structure. I don't make the code, but
I
you
just
start
think we
thinking
don't have
about
any of these in Auburn.
fences and walls and other things that, and I understand it's like if they're saying it's for a safety issue, but if are they throwing it under that as an accessory structure for safety? I don't.
Right, and I hear what you're saying, Clint, but I guess my point is that he may not even have to be here.
Right.
I hear you on
I
that.
agree.
I mean,
I hear you on
that's
that.
basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Well, in that
Light
case,
redesign and there's no issue.
right, or do an appeal of the interpretation of accessory structure, which is,
And then everybody who wants a pool is free forever.
Yeah, I think it's an odd part of the code to argue that it's a
Structure.
I agree.
structure when you're
It is
digging up,
weird.
digging up the ground. I will make a motion to approve PL 2021-00226.
Second.
Drew Goodner,
Yes.
Ross Rollins,
No.
Emmy Sorrells,
Yes.
Kim White,
no,
Clint Wilson.
Yes.
All right. PL 2021-00227.
Good afternoon. This is a request from the property owner George L. Herndon for a variance to the front setback requirement in the NC 12 zoning district. The variance request is for 2.5 feet where the required setback is 30 feet. The property is located on Wilson Street in NC 12, surrounded by NC 12. Here's an exhibit showing the proposed porch front addition. The porch extends, as I said, 2.5 feet over the building setback line that you see here, 30 foot. I did receive one call just for informational purposes, and I believe the property owner is here. He is. And here's a picture showing essentially where that patio porch would go in the front. Happy to answer any questions.
No correspondence on this?
Just the one call for information.
Anyone have any questions for Logan? The applicant here?
I'm George Herndon, the homeowner. What we're proposing, would like to do is add a 10-foot wide front porch. It's about 21 foot long. It centers on the house, facing the street. We thought we were clear for a while. We talked to 2 different builders, and we were getting ready to move ahead, had it resurveyed. There's what I call an abnormal curve in the street right in front of our house. You can't, if you go out and look, you can't see a reason for the curve there, but what happens is at both corners of my house on the front, I have plenty of room for the setback to build the porch I want. But when you get to the center of the house, I'm 30 inches short because of the curvature of the street. And so we're asking for that variance of just 30 inches. It'll be a completely open porch, supported with columns on the front. The interior, the ceiling will be finished with ceiling and have ceiling fans and lights on the porch. And it'll just be something will make my wife very happy to be able to sit on her front porch and visit with her neighbors as they walk the streets in the afternoons. It's something she's wanted for a long time. And I hope you give us consideration for that. Happy to answer any questions. I really don't know what else to tell you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
George, anyone have any questions for him? Thank you. Open up the public hearing for anyone who has anything to say for or against this variance. Close the public hearing and open up to the board for discussion and/or a motion.
Well, I thought he made a good point that it's the curve of the street right there that just sort of pinches in the middle. Inhibits the ability, and that's a very small variance. It makes a lot of sense to me.
I think anything that adds to the curb appeal on a house, I'm all for that. Wouldn't be an issue, and we're talking about 2.5 feet.
make a motion to approve PL 2021-00227.
Second.
Drew Goodner,
Yes.
Ross Rollins,
Yes.
Amy Sorrells,
Yes.
Kim White, Clint Wilson.
Yes.
J, PL 2021-230.
All right, your last case for the evening is a request for two different variances, one for a minimum side setback as well as one for a total side setback in the Neighborhood Conservation 11 District. It's located at 255 Payne Street. You see there, just south of Thatch and just north of Hare. The applicants are requesting one request for a variance of 9 feet to the minimum required 12-foot side yard setback to allow a side yard setback of 3 feet on the home's north side. And then the second request is for a variance of 9 feet 4 inches to the minimum required 25-foot total side setback to allow for a 15-foot 8-inch total side setback. As you might recall, since it's in Neighborhood Conservation District, they have both a minimum side in cases where the request would equal less total side cumulative of both sides put together. They actually have to come before you for two different variances, even though this specific request is regarding just one side of the house. This is a site plan of the proposal. I should say, I meant to say that this is the third time that you'll hear this case. The first two were in 2016. When it was first considered, there were concerns about the proximity. And then the second time it was heard, there were more specific concerns, I think, regarding drainage and fire safety in regards to the neighboring property. The applicant came back to us and presented you with revised site plans that showed different materials and some new grading that they had accomplished on the site to try and facilitate it, and wanted to see if that would suffice to alleviate your concerns. This is one of the exhibits that they provided shows the wall for the side of the carport extension that they want to build that would be on the side closest to the neighboring home. And it's important to note that even with a variance approval that was not concerned about fire safety, any building plan that they would be submitting would have to meet the building code for the city, which does take into consideration the fire safety of neighboring structures. So,
Thank you.
We did hear quite a lot of correspondence from the neighbors. We heard from the adjacent neighbors to the north and south, which were part of the application. They spoke in support of their neighbors for you to rehear it. And since then, we've also heard from the neighborhood association as well in support of their request. This is a site plan that just shows the grading that they've done as part of their remodel. And a picture currently of the side that's in between the two buildings. The side on the right with the yellow car is a subject property. You can see the covered area that is where the covered carport would be. And then the adjacent house to the left there, which shares a driveway. They recently, you can see in the back, they recently put in a accessory structure themselves for their parking, for their own car garage up to the back. That would not, the position that they put it there would not impact the fire safety of this extension. And the applicant's representative is here. Any of your questions?
So there's nothing permitting the neighbor from also coming before us and trying to do the same thing, correct?
Anybody can make any application they choose to. Now, a question would be whether or not if you chose to approve such a request, again, they would have to meet the same building safety requirements that anybody else would.
Saw your note that if we were to grant this, you would recommend a condition that it not be further modified?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay. Applicant like to speak?
Hey, Ian Hoffman, architect at 255 Payne Street. I just want to thank you for choosing to rehear this application. We did hear your comments from last month's meeting about the 1 hour rated construction, and we did provide details showing those UL assemblies with that 1 hour rated construction. Another thing we talked about in last month's rehearing request was for proof of permit or something like that for the adjacent property. That requires a public records request, so we do have the photo here of that carport on the adjacent property showing the carport set back. So it's not going to be in line with us. They have a driveway there, so it's pretty obvious there's not going to be anything flammable there. You can see next to where that trailer, that black trailer is parked, the brick veneer on that building. So they took down the old wood frame structure there and put up that that brick clad building.
Logan, if you could bring up that other presentation.
So part of the hardship of this property is the lot width itself. So this zoning ordinance that in the setbacks that we're in is based on a 75-foot lot width. The average lot width in this property is only 72 feet, and the subject property is only, I can't read it, I think it's 62 feet wide. So not only are we under what the ordinance was built around, but we're smaller than the average on the street. This is just based on Auburn's GIS. We didn't survey these lots, but I looked at what properties already had existing a 3-foot setback along Payne Street. And I identified 4 that were very clearly on GIS within that 3-foot setback. There may have been 1 or 2 that were close, and I just left them off because I didn't want to misrepresent anything. One of the previous comments at our hearing 3 years ago, more than 3 years ago now, was about water runoff to the creek behind the property. And I know there are some properties on Payne Street that do come up pretty close to that topographic sort of ravine, if you will, that feeds into that creek. But we're 250 feet away from that, and we go over 2 or 3 other properties before we get to that creek. Existing site plan as is, those are the spot grades there on the corner of the property, and then that area, the northeast corner of the property that's hatched in, that is where the property has been regraded. So there's a swale there basically that collects the water and prevents it from going into the 251 Payne Street lot. And the new carport, the addition is shown on here on 251 that they already have basically completed now, but the carport is not shown on here, but it would be there in that back corner. And then the proposed carport or porte cochere, just those 2 columns there, 3 feet away from the north property line. Architecturally, we've integrated it into the existing elevations and the existing character of the house. So this is the front elevation. This is what you would see from Payne Street. So the existing is at the bottom of the page, and then the low slope roof of the porte cochere and the brick columns is there at the top of the page. There's dimensions there in case you guys have any questions about any of the particulars. This is the elevation that the north elevation that the neighbor at 251 Payne Street would see. So there is an existing screen porch back there. You'll see on that lower elevation, that is that low slope metal roof construction. And really this porte cochere would just tie right in to that existing screen porch. And then this is the detail that you saw earlier from Jay. One thing I just wanted to point out is, we are doing good detailing, good fire-rated construction for the rain leaders coming down off of there. If we're trying to direct the water underground, we do have that debris filter, which is just a screen, open screen, catches any leaf litter or anything like that, keeps it from clogging up the underground pipes. We want this to be a long-term solution. And then the photo that we looked at earlier. Any questions?
You're very thorough, thank you.
Trying to cover all bases.
Love it.
And that looks like more like a portico-chet than that previous small house that we saw. Any questions for Ian?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Drew, there is one other comment that I forgot to mention. Any structure that comes to that's built has the allowance to overhang into a setback as much as 3 feet. This is that's equal to the same setback that they're requesting in this case. There is a limitation that for building code that no portion of a structure can be closer than 2 feet from its property line. And so if you do see fit to approve the variance, another limitation I would say would be there should be no overhang larger than 1 foot.
Okay. Open the public hearing for anyone who wants to speak for or against this variance request. Close the public hearing and open it up to the board for a discussion and/or a motion.
The only thing is the neighbor. If the neighbor's good with it and they understand that they're getting locked in and they can't do what their, what is this, 253 did compared to 251 or whatever.
Yeah,
they got
255 and
you know what I
251.
mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my only thing.
Yeah, I think
Or
they,
251 to 255, as long as 251's like, well, I'm never gonna do that, but how do we know that? And then they'll come in here, well, you let our neighbor do it.
and I think they obviously are building a structure in the back there.
And things settle.
Yeah. And I think this is I wasn't sure what it was going to look like, but when he had the elevation, I feel like it's a very modest
Oh, I don't disagree.
cover
incredibly
area, yeah.
I mean, it's a lot better than this screen he's got right now, which probably dumps massive amounts of water on your neighbor's lot, if I'm guessing, in the last couple of nights rain thing. I mean, I think it adds completely to the character. You're making the best use of the lot, and it gets him, covered parking. The fact that the neighbor already has the structure in the back, I would find very highly unlikely that he ever tries to come back and do something that would come right next to this too. So, not saying that that's not impossible, but I think they've already built this with the consideration that knowing that this is what this will probably look like.
Can I see the rendering again?
I mean, you almost can't tell. I mean, it's very from the side anyway too.
What is the overhang they're showing? Is it showing? 1 foot?
1 foot, but and then 12 feet from the, like right here, the 1 foot.
That's the column.
I think that overhang.
Doesn't show it.
You're talking from the column to the end of
The
the.
column 1 foot 5 inches, the 9 foot 5 for the opening. It doesn't show what the overhang is.
Oh. Do we know what that overhang is from the end of the column?
It looks to be close to a foot. I know we could make it conditioned on that.
You can make it 0 if you wanted to.
Ian, do you think it's about a foot?
I think it is about a foot.
Okay.
We can make sure that.
Okay.
I would treat these exhibits as just that, exhibits, and not a building permit.
Right.
Well, sometimes we lock it into the exhibit,
Until you do, yeah.
but we can't on this case because it doesn't show that dimension.
We could condition it on.
We can condition
as
it.
presented, but then with the,
Correct.
that it couldn't overhang more than a foot. That's what you suggested, Jay?
Yes.
Okay.
They cannot further modify or enclose the carport for living space.
I like it. I walk by this house just about every day, and I think they've done a great job. Probably the most prepared presentation I've seen for a little portico.
It's been 3 years in the making, right?
But 5 years,
Right.
5 years.
Come a
And all
long way.
materials are fireproof as required,
They've done a lot.
1 hour, 2 hour, whatever the 1 hour.
I will make a motion to approve PL 2021000230 as presented, conditioned on that the applicant cannot further modify or enclose the carport for living space, and that the overhang, should I say not exceed 1 foot or be within 2 feet of the property line?
Shall not exceed.
Shall not exceed 1 foot overhang.
Hey, Drew, since it's two variances, we need two motions.
And, okay, so that's a motion for the side yard setback of 3 feet on the home's north side. And Clint has recused himself on this one.
Drew Goodner,
Yes.
Frost Rollins, Amy Sorrells,
Yes.
Kim White,
Yes.
John Huff.
Yes.
I will make a motion to approve PL 2021000230, the variance of 9 feet 4 inches to the minimum setback to allow for a 15-foot 8-inch setback, conditioned on that the applicant cannot further modify or enclose the carport for living space, and that the overhang not exceed 1 foot.
Second.
Drew Goodner,
Yes?
Frost Rollins,
Yeah, hold on. You have something?
I got, but does it detail that within the 1 foot, do we also need to talk about that it can't go into the 2 foot, or is 1 foot good enough? Because we're not basing it on the drawing.
So the 1 foot overhang would limit it to, that. The setback is set at 3 feet, if you choose to approve it.
We just approved.
That's
Which we just approved.
Which you just approved. So it's set at 3 feet. The overhang limits that overhang allowance to the 1 foot maximum.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to, okay, sorry about that.
Amy Sorrells,
Yes.
Kim White,
Yes.
John Huff.
Yes.
All right, thank you. We are adjourned.